When Thomas Jefferson wanted to separate the church from the state, he didn't realize the left would take the bait. Hey guys, it's Katie. I'm your host of Faith at Work, and this is episode number 3. You have been warned, right? Did we warn them? Yeah, we warned them. We warned you that this was going to be political. Okay, so I have been just being flooded with ads. I know that you have too, and you're just like, oh my gosh. I think all the real people who aren't necessarily in the media, they understand that there is more that makes everyone on the same page than separates us, right? Whenever, I know that Kamala's saying that a ton, where there's more between us that links us together as a united family than separates us. And what I want to say is, I agree. I agree that actually the differences between the left and the right, if we actually put them on a piece of paper and lined up like how extreme they are, that most of Americans aren't actually on the way extremes of one thing or the other. But the other thing I want to talk about, because this is a faith-based podcast, is that there are some things that aren't political. There are some things that are biblical. And so if you're somebody who's trying to have a relationship with God or follow the Bible, there are some things that I really want you to know and things that I want you to leave this conversation with that you can go look for yourself. Because this happened I went to church on Sunday and it was just right in my face. I mean, the whole sermon was about basically the separation between church and state, which, by the way, was not written in the Constitution. It was a letter from Thomas Jefferson where he was basically saying and trying to protect the church. He was trying to protect the church. He wasn't trying to protect the state from the church. He was trying to make sure that the church could influence and should influence the state, but that the state could not take rights away or interfere with what the church was doing, which, wow, I mean, where we've gone from that day to today is completely backwards, sideways, upside down. It's like gymnastics happened. So I really want you guys to think about this. There are some things that are being pushed to you, things that are really important, and I want you to think for yourself. I want you to look into them, and I want you to vote however you feel you're supposed to vote, whether that's guided by God or guided by whatever you follow. I really want you to have the information. So something that we're going to talk about today is controversial, but really shouldn't be that controversial if we all were on the same page and we just have a couple of tweaks that we believe one way or the other. So yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about Amendment 4. We're going to talk about abortion. Crickets, canceled. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your body. I'm literally not here to judge you. I'm not here to judge myself. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that I have never been pregnant and I have never had to make what I would think is the most difficult decision in the entire world, which is whether to be a mom or not be a mom. And I'm telling you this story, and it's been pulling on me so hard because until a few months ago, I thought that me and God have this thing. I'm like, hey, you didn't put a desire in my heart to be a mom. I'm in my 40s. I've never been pregnant. I'm married. I could very easily have children, and I just don't have that desire that God put in women's hearts to be moms. And I've always thought maybe I couldn't get pregnant. Like, there are things that go on in my head, but at the end of the day, I started to get really bold about it. Like, God and I have an agreement. If he puts a baby in me, that's my decision whether I'm going to move forward with that or not, and he better not. That is like, seems crazy now with where I stand with it, but it's how I felt. And I don't know how you feel. I don't know if you've been pregnant. I don't know if you've made what you feel like is a mistake by having an abortion. I don't know if you're thinking about having an abortion. I don't know if it's just something that you've never thought about, or if it's something that fires you up and you're like, don't talk about abortion. That's for me and me alone. I want you to know that the reason that I'm saying this is that I very recently know, like, to the bottom of my soul, that I feel differently about abortion now, and I don't know why. Nothing traumatic happened to me. I didn't have to make any crazy decisions, but I truly believe that God made it heavier for me by saying to me that there is not a birth control pill, there is not an IUD, there is not a thing in this world that could separate me from his plan for me if I'm supposed to be a mom. And the only thing that could separate me from that plan would be me killing what would be, in my opinion, a baby. So having that direct change in me made me want to do this, because I don't know what place you're in, but I think society made me think, okay, it's not really a baby. Is there a heartbeat? Is there not a heartbeat? I mean, it's like this sliding scale that goes from really convincing women that they're not killing a baby. And if you don't think you're killing a baby and you think you're just like sucking liquid out of yourself, it's a lot easier, I think, to do, right? Because if you actually pictured a live person inside of you being murdered, it would change everything for how you feel about that decision that you would have to make as a woman who's been pregnant. So I was talking to Val about it. Val's like real quiet over there. She's like, are we doing it? We're doing it. Val, has her own opinion about abortion. And do you want to share your opinion?
Yeah, sure. So part of it is that I'm trying to use a mic for the first time, so I'm a little worried about the audio. But generally, for me, I've always had a hard time with perspective on abortion, because I kind of had the opposite perspective of Katie. I was like, for myself, I know I'm never going to get one. It's not something I could handle. I've always felt like I should be a mother. So I was like, if it's going to come early, it's going to happen to me. And it is what it is. But I always felt like, who am I to say anything to anyone else? Because I think for a lot of my life, even though I was raised religious and I've kind of come back to religion, there was a long period in my life where I was like highly liberal and highly not sure about what my belief system was. I mean, I think when you're like Gen Z in this day and age, it's kind of hard not to be.
It's like easier too. And I think we had the conversation, I'll bring it here, is it's almost like if you don't believe with the crowd, like you said it perfectly, that you're morally bankrupt. Like you actually are told that if you don't believe these things and you believe these other things, that you are evil. And so that is hard. I mean, I can't imagine, I actually can't imagine, because when I was at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, that's one of the most liberal colleges. I mean, I don't know how liberal it is compared to others because I only went to there. But I will tell you that I was a young Republican at the time, just for what I stood for and what I wanted to be part of in the groups I was part of. And people would, spit and pee and do things to my property that had like our little sticker on it, and, throw my scooter down and things like that. And I'd be like, geez, like I would never, and I'm not saying that's left versus right. Like I actually don't know enough in terms of, I haven't looked into the statistics of how many right-wing students versus left-wing students pee and spit and hurt property. I really haven't looked into it. I think from the media, I would suggest that it's a little bit on one side versus the other, but I haven't looked into enough to do. But it is hard, and I love your perspective of that because God put the desire in your heart to be a mom, your feelings about abortion are so different than mine. Like, I don't want to be a mom. So it's a different thing. Like if you got pregnant, you're of course going to accept it, whether you were married, maybe, whether, there's probably certain things in your life that happen now where you're like, of course, Val's about to get married to the man of her dreams. Like you're about to get married to the man of your dreams. You've got 2 cute little puppies. Like a baby wouldn't be the worst thing in the whole world. And I know that there's instances where that's not the case. So I want to just remind you right now, if you're listening to this, that we're not here to judge you or tell you that you should or should not get an abortion. Literally, I think it's the same kind of thing with sex before marriage, honestly. I think it's really easy for people to sit in their little castle, married people that had sex before marriage. They're like, oh, I wouldn't now though. I know how awful that was. That was the sin that I should have avoided. And you should not have sex before marriage because how easy is that? I mean, it's way easier for me as a married woman to tell a single girl that than it would be to be the single girl. Do I think it's amazing to wait till marriage? I think it's amazing. I think it's one of the coolest, sexiest things in the world to have sex with your partner for the first time at your wedding. I actually do. I think that would be so cool. I didn't do it. I'm not going to judge Val, but she doesn't have to mention it. Maybe she is waiting for marriage. We won't talk about it right now.
I did not do it. So I'm with you.
See? So it's a lot easier once you've done something or once you haven't done something to judge. So the reason I'm on here today is to let you know that you have someone that you can talk to if you're going through it and you're like, gosh, like I never thought of it that way. Or if you're actually wanting resources, like I know that all the churches in Naples have things set up where you can really think and talk and like decide for yourself what you want to do. And I'm not going to push you one way or the other because again, I still to this day, if I get pregnant, I'm going to make that decision. I hope I make it biblically and that I have a relationship with God that's taught me enough of what he wants to do with my life that I follow his plan. But I can't say 100% one way or the other what I would do. I know what I think and feel right now, which we know how that gets you in trouble, right? Thinking and feeling and making decisions based on that. Yikes. Okay, so enough about that, except that you are getting probably the same as me, a ton of advertisements for voting yes on Amendment 4. I do not care how you vote. I hope that you vote with what you believe is right. But I know that a lot of people are being misled by this, and that's why I'm specifically pointing this amendment out, that Amendment 4, when they're telling you to vote yes, it is with this very difficult language to understand and decipher to know that you're actually voting for what you believe in. So we are going to give a link to what voting Amendment 4 yes or no actually means and what this amendment is trying to do in the state of Florida. So just a little info that this is actually trying to allow late-term abortions through birth. So if you're someone who's like, hey, I want women to be able to decide what they want, but you've got limits to that. This is going to take those limits away. And the way that they're wording it, you wouldn't know that. You're thinking that you're just trying to help other women who want to make that decision for themselves. You are not. You are actually making it okay to allow late-term abortions through birth. If that's something you want to allow, vote yes, right? If it's something you want to make sure is taken with very serious measure, then you're going to vote no. The second thing it does is removes protections for women and children. So right now, if the pregnancy would actually result in the mom being harmed physically, meaning death, there are ways to get an abortion. If it's just about like, I don't feel like having an abortion, maybe I don't feel financially sound to have a baby, they're letting people have abortions up to birth with this bill, this amendment. And then saying no eliminates parental rights. And I want you guys to know this. This says that this is the way this is worded. I'm going to end here. This amendment does not change the legislature's constitutional authority to require notification to a parent or guardian before a minor has an abortion. We're talking about children having abortions. This is making you think that this is not changing the way things are right now, which is where parents have to consent to their children having an abortion. This is actually making you think that that's not changing, and it is. Notification is not consent. So look, whether you've had an abortion, you're thinking about having one, you've never thought about it, you're a guy who maybe doesn't think it's your right to say anything to women, I'm just letting you know that you can be empowered to have a conversation about it with us. I can put you in different groups where you can actually get more information. But the most important thing is if you would take the minute to just watch, there's 5 minutes to watch a video just explaining what this amendment does. I just think it's important that if you're going to vote on something that you understand what it is. Because the only thing that really bothers me about this is the wording. Anytime someone is trying to mislead you into voting one way, knowing that it's actually going to be against what you wanted as a voter, I have a problem with that, and we're going to stand up against that. So in Jesus' name, we will fight against people trying to manipulate you into thinking that you're doing one thing and instead voting another. So I know that was heavy today, you guys, but sometimes we got to get real, and sometimes we have to give people the space to talk about things that are really uncomfortable. And I'd say abortion might be the one of the most uncomfortable first political posts we can make, but it's so necessary, especially in a time like this. So we are so happy that you came. We are here for more. This is, again, just little tiny podcast letting you know that we're here for you and that we have more links, and we're going to guide you if you need it. And if you just needed to stop in and get a little bit of perspective or think of something new, we were here for it. So I'm excited for the next one. It's not going to be so heavy next time. Maybe we'll talk about fitness. I think we're online for fitness next. And until then, stay elevated. And it actually works for Take the Bait because of Trump. Yeah. Just taking that bait, baby.